So now let's talk about the Keynesian perspective. So now that we know what aggregate demand and aggregate supply is, and then we introduced what the Keynesian zone was, let's look about what he was thinking. So Dr. Keynes was a very influential economist. He had a lot of great ideas about how he thought the economy would work. So he believed that we should focus on the idea that firms produce an output only if they are expected to sell it. What that means is that Keynes says that demand is the one that's driving the bus. Okay, demand is the one that's going to get us out of a recession or increase output. So we need to focus on increasing aggregate demand. That's what Keynes thought. So remember, real GDP is the amount of goods and services actually sold in a nation. Um, Keynes said that because you can basically change consumption overnight, you can change investment overnight, you can change all of these things really quickly, your aggregate demand is going to be unstable and it can change unexpectedly. And then we introduced the recessionary gap and the inflationary gap. Remember, the recessionary gap was the one where we were having aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply curve, and then your long run was to the left. The inflationary gap was where we had aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply curve, and then your long run was to the left of it. This was the inflationary gap. So where, depending on where you are in your economy, is where you have a recession or an inflationary gap. So the Keynesian view of the aggregate demand aggregate supply model, it uses the horizontal short run aggregate supply curve because he believed that we should be focusing on output, not really aggregate demand. He also believed that prices don't change as fast when we have changes in the economy. So basically, if we were to think about like, okay, if we have more output, that means we need to hire more people. How can you hire more people? You need to increase wage to increase the amount of people that you can hire, and then this would increase the employment, right? So then we would have a change in prices. Keynes believed something different. He believed that prices are going to remain around the same, even if you were to increase increase aggregate demand. The Keynesian view of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply model uses the horizontal levels of output, thus beginning from the potential output. Any decrease in aggregate demand only affects output. So anytime we decrease the aggregate demand, this only changes output. We're not going to have that decrease in price that we saw earlier. Any increase in aggregate demand only affects prices and not output. So then we're on the horizontal region, so any decreases means that prices stay the same. We're only changing output. But if we are on the vertical part, so now Keynes was like, okay, you're going to reach the certain limit of the economy. So since you're at this limit here and you want to increase output, the only thing left to do is just increase prices. So what we're trying to say here is that if we go from YP, which is like a starting point, and you go to Y1, so we're decreasing aggregate demand, this only decreases output. Prices stay the same, P0. But if we were to increase aggregate demand to the right, then we would see that this only changed prices. Output did not change. Okay. So Keynes says that the supply curve should look like this. Okay. Now, how can we change aggregate demand? We already mentioned these. C, I, G, and X. Any change with consumption, which has to deal with a change in your income, a change in your expected income or your expected inflation, or a change in your wealth or credit. Remember, wealth is not your income. Wealth is the value of the things that you own. So if the value of your stocks and bonds increases, this changes the amount of wealth you have. And if you're wealthier, you're more likely to spend more money. The other thing that's going to change is your investment. Remember, this is what the businesses are investing in. This could be producers' durable equipment. This could be factories and offices. This could be a change in inventories, or it could be something like a house. Okay. When a business considers, they are looking at the expected benefits, how much profits they're going to get, and they're also considering the cost of the loan that they're going to get if they borrow money. So that's what we're going to do in terms of investment. We could have a change in government spending. So government could decide to spend more money on something. Keynes recognized that the government budget offered a powerful tool for influencing aggregate demand. Basically, more government spending could stimulate aggregate demand, right? Or less government spending could reduce it. So Keynes really thought that consumers can be unpredictable, right? You as a consumer could buy more, could buy less, all because of what you think or what you want. So Keynes was like, we shouldn't really rely on consumers. They're really unpredictable. Same thing with firms and investment. Kind of a thing of like, it's up to them if they want to invest or not. So Keynes was like, well, if we want to change aggregate demand, we could focus on government spending. This is the one where the government says yes or no, spend or don't spend. So it makes it a little bit easier. So Keynes really wanted to focus on government spending as a way to increase aggregate demand or reduce it. So government, in terms of what they have the power to do, is they can either spend more or less, or they can change taxes. Change in taxes is pretty interesting, because if you lower or raise taxes, this does not change GDP. Okay? Because remember, GDP is CIGNX, and G was government spending, not taxes. So here's the deal. If you lower taxes, this means you have more disposable income. Because you have more income, you consume more. So just because you change taxes, this does not change government spending. It changes consumption. Okay, so if we lower taxes, then this increases disposable income, which increases consumption. Or we could raise taxes, and this would lower disposable income, which lowers consumption. And because you have less consumption, less aggregate demand. So Keynes concluded that during extreme times like deep recessions, only the government had the power and the resources to move aggregate demand. Because think about it, right? Like, we're having a recession, meaning you have a lot of unemployment. A lot of people are not working. So if they're not working, they don't have the money to consume things. So if you never get that income to consume, then you're still going to be in a recession. So Keynes was like, well, if we can't convince the people to consume, or we can't convince the businesses to invest more money, what we could do is have the government spend more money. We could convince them to do that, and this will increase aggregate demand to get us out of the recession. Okay? So that's what Keynes, that's what his theory was. The other thing that's going to change aggregate demand would be a change in net exports. So we define aggregate demand as spending on domestic goods. So we could export expenditures, right? So basically people are buying our things, so they're giving us money. This increases aggregate demand, while import expenditures subtract aggregate demand. So we're going to be subtracting the goods, right? So the prices, our money is basically leaving the country. So it's going to be a negative effect. Two sets of factors could cause a shift in export imports. This could be a change in growth rate between countries. So remember I mentioned, like, if you have more money, you're going to buy more things. So if that country is doing really, really well, having more income, they're more likely to buy your stuff. We could have a change in prices. As a consumer, remember, you always want the cheaper price. So wherever the cheaper price is, that's where you're going to buy your stuff. So if it's cheaper in Mexico, you're probably going to buy more Mexican goods than U.S. goods. So if the prices in the U.S. start to increase, we're going to see a decrease in the exports because it's cheaper somewhere else. So that's the idea behind net exports. These can change, and this will change aggregate demand. So these are the different ways we could shift aggregate demand. So we can have any change of this to decrease aggregate demand, or we can have any change over here to increase aggregate demand. I wanted to show you what would happen in terms of the Keynesian view if we were to decrease aggregate demand. So basically, if we were in a inflationary gap, so price level, Y, we have the short run aggregate supply curve, and we have the aggregate demand curve, and then we have the long run. So currently, you are here. So this is a recessionary gap, and because this is a recessionary gap, you are below your potential. So Keynes said, hey, you need to increase to get to here. Okay, and by doing this, this increases your output, and it will increase your price level. So this is an increase in aggregate demand. And that could happen because of any one of these reasons here. If we had a decrease in aggregate demand, and that would be because we are in the inflationary gap. So this is your current output. Well, let me draw it more accurately. So basically, in the inflationary gap, you would be somewhere over here. So you're more on the vertical range of the supply curve. And so Keynes said we need to decrease this. So we need to decrease aggregate demand. So this would decrease output and decrease price level. And that would be a decrease in aggregate demand. And that would happen for any one of these reasons here. All right, in the next video, we'll continue talking about the Keynesian analysis. I'll see you there. Bye.